Hello everyone, today I will introduce the 8th exit of the latest Japanese horror movie. The story begins on a seemingly ordinary day. The main character, Kazunari, is looking at his smartphone while swaying on a crowded train on his way to work. On the screen, cute cat videos and strange news about human transplants stream by, mixed with ads for beauty products and elderly care. Kazunari doesn't pay much attention, but he doesn't realize that these things will be connected to what happens later. Suddenly, he hears a cry that tickles his ears. When Kazunari takes out his earphones and turns around, the baby in its mother's arms is crying for no reason. All the passengers around him are so absorbed in their smartphones that no one pays attention. Only one salaryman snaps. He's exhausted from work, but he can't stand the noise on the packed train. He tells the mother to control her child. The mother keeps apologizing and holds the baby tightly. Kazunari doesn't intervene. He simply puts his earphones back in without thinking. When the train arrives at the station, he's pushed by the crowd like a soulless zombie and leaves the station as usual. At that moment, a call comes in from Nana, his ex-wife. "Hello? You finally answered. Where are you now?" "I'm on my way today." "Why?" "I went to the hospital." "What happened?" "I'm pregnant." Nana asks Kazunari whether they should keep the baby or give it up. Kazunari can't answer. The baby's cry still seems to echo in his ears. He feels pressure in his chest so great he can't breathe. He quickly pulls out his vape and takes a deep inhale. Nana points out his cowardice and says, "Don't overdo it, I've already decided." But her words break up because the reception gets bad, and the call cuts off. After he closes his smartphone, Kazunari suddenly realizes he has walked into an underground passage that leads to exit 8 without noticing. The passage is very quiet and the sound of shoes echoes on the concrete floor. The only other passerby is a lone man who appears from a corner. At first, Kazunari moves forward silently without noticing anything unusual. First he passes the man, turns the first corner, and there's a row of lockers and a photo booth on his left. When he turns the second corner, there's a bulletin board with the number exit 0 on the left wall. He doesn't pay attention to the number and keeps going. But the scene ahead is something he's seen somewhere before. The passerby who appeared from the corner is exactly the same man as before. His posture and clothes haven't changed. The placement of the two corners is almost identical. Kazunari's mind fills with questions. He thinks he might have taken the wrong turn, so he slows his pace so he won't miss a branching point. However, when the same scene repeats 3 times, Kazunari becomes confused. He glances at the guide sign for exit 8 and wonders what's wrong. When he passes the man again, he thinks about asking him how this is possible, but in the end he can't speak. He doesn't even notice the word Chikahairoba on the back of the guideboard. Then a problem occurs. The display on the guideboard suddenly changes. The number switches to 3. Kazunari steps into the same underground passage for the 4th time. Now his chest fills with anxiety. More terrifyingly, the man's footsteps suddenly disappear. Kazunari panics and starts running. He convinces himself the man is not chasing him and breathes a little easier. But soon that creepy man appears again. Kazunari hurries back, but his desperate actions are useless. The distance between him and the man doesn't change, and he's returned to that strange passage once more. He stops and watches, realizing the man is walking a fixed route like an NPC programmed to act, with no intention to attack. Kazunari is relieved to stop in the passage and tries to call for help, but the buzzer doesn't respond and the 3 doors next to it don't open. In his despair, he notices a picture on the wall, an ant crawling along a Mobius strip, unable to find an exit forever, just like him now. But as soon as Kazunari falls into that thought, a change happens. Kazunari turns around in fear and suddenly stops at a corner. There he looks down and sees the man frozen, staring at his smartphone. The guideboard on the left has changed from 0 to 1. Now Kazunari finally notices the warning sign next to the guideboard. It reads, "Be careful of any abnormalities in the passage. If you find a problem, you may return immediately. If there is no problem, you cannot return. Only through exit 8 can you get out." Kazunari realizes he is trapped in a loop. There's no way to find the real exit unless he follows the rules of that note. He tries to ask the man about the exit, but the man doesn't answer. Lonely and powerless, Kazunari has no choice but to rely on himself. He remembers the blood clot he'd seen earlier and thinks that spotting abnormalities will help him understand what's wrong. So he checks the ceiling. The fluorescent lights that should run in a straight line are suddenly crooked. Then, when Kazunari returns to the guideboard, the number changes from 1 back to 0 as expected. The game has reset to the start. Kazunari, now in the loop again, starts photographing the surroundings with his smartphone lockers, the photo booth carefully recording everything. The guideboard changes to 1, showing there had been no change earlier. Those photos should help in the next round. But when he looks at the pictures, they're blurred with strange colors. Kazunari now must rely on memory alone to judge if anything is off. While he's concentrating on checking the surroundings, the man's footsteps disappear again. Looking back, the man is standing right behind him, his expressionless face twisted into a creepy smile. In this terrifying moment, Kazunari feels like his heart will be crushed. He starts running, falls to the ground, and curls up. After that, he turns back with a little courage. The strange man he saw earlier has entered the passage by the guideboard and is staring at his smartphone without moving. And the guideboard number has changed from 1 to 2. This proves Kazunari's judgment was correct without a doubt. He regains confidence and keeps playing the game. He carefully distinguishes everything in the loop and checks it against the security camera footage in his head. He concludes there's no problem and heads for the goal with a positive attitude. However, at that moment he hears a baby crying from a locker. The painful sound of crying, as if suffocating, echoes and Kazunari unexpectedly pulls back in front of the locker. The screams grow louder and seem to chase Kazunari. He keeps retreating. Seeing the guideboard number at 3, he is convinced the baby's cry is another abnormality. But the game isn't over. Kazunari repeats the previous steps to find abnormalities in the loop. This time he concludes there are none, but when he passes a sticker in front of the security camera twice, he feels the background freeze. The eyes on the sticker move along with his movement. That's definitely a problem. Kazunari withdraws without hesitation. The guideboard changes to surely 4. He can't believe his luck. Then the guideboard changes to 5 without encountering any problem in the 5th loop. Kazunari gets active and keeps making correct decisions. If he succeeds 3 more times, he can get out. He then becomes even more careful. But at this crucial moment, his smartphone rings. It's Nana, his ex-wife, calling again. Will this count as an abnormality? Kazunari's mind is lost. When he answers, Nana's gentle voice explains he's been lost in the subway station for a long time. Nana asks what to do about the child in her womb. She still can't decide. In truth, Kazunari is very disturbed. He doubts he can be a good father because of what he's seen at the station. But more than anything, what he wants is to go to Nana's side. The moment he promises to be there, Kazunari heads to the goal with hope in his heart. Suddenly Nana appears on the loop path, but Kazunari doesn't notice at first. When he looks at the guideboard, the number 0 blows and crushes his hope. The earlier phone call was also an abnormality. Kazunari moves forward whispering. The passage's color shifts from bright white to pale yellow. Already mentally cornered, Kazunari collapses. If the side effect is a kind of death, Kazunari dies once. But reality forces him to comfort himself and stand up and return to the original path. In the first loop after the reset, Kazunari accurately judges that the lighting color is abnormal. He's not happy, but he enters the next loop like a set stone. This time he sees a boy standing alone on the path. From his previous experience, he immediately turns back thinking the boy is in trouble. But the guideboard number resets from 1 to 0. At first he thinks he made a mistake, but then he reaffirms that the boy is not in trouble. He's another unlucky person trapped in the same loop. When Kazunari asks who the boy is with, the boy runs into the passage silently and points at the man who was the NPC in the loop. It turns out the man had once been a person trapped there too, struggling to escape with the boy who had learned the rules and become lost in the passage. At that time, the living NPC was a short-haired woman. The man asked if the boy had seen anything different when he finished observing everything in the passage. However, the mischievous boy stays silent. Because of that, the man repeatedly loses confidence, but their cooperation goes well, and once they manage to raise the guideboard number to 5. It turns out they only needed 3 more successes to reach the real exit, and the man danced happily. However, in the 6th loop they encounter an unexpected situation that the man can't decide on. The short-haired woman who should have been real suddenly starts talking. The man falls into a trap instantly, drawn in by her sweet voice. I'm lost. I can't get out either. If you don't mind, can I go with you? Of course. It seems we're lost like each other. Is that so? After the two form a team, they must continue distinguishing differences, but the short-haired woman starts asking questions as if in conversation. Maybe we're already dead. Is this hell? Are we trapped? Can we get out? Her words immediately touch the man's fear and he doesn't know how to answer. The short-haired woman suddenly changes the topic and points to the elderly man who always appears around the corner, saying his behavior was suspicious. This time the old man doesn't appear. Is that counted as a disaster? The man doesn't know if he should trust the short-haired woman's words. While he hesitates, the short-haired woman moves closer and puts her hand on his chest. He rides the train every day, goes to work every day, repeating the same things. This is hell. The man is swayed, but when he tries to answer, the woman repeats poor in a way that causes him to lose his composure. The man panics and drags the boy back and sees the guideboard number change from 5 to 6, and at last his fear eases. After all, the earlier incident was clearly designed to target his weaknesses. If he hadn't noticed the bug, he would have to start over from the beginning. But by experiencing the short-haired woman's incident, his fear grows larger. He wants to get out of this disgusting place as quickly as possible, so he becomes more impatient when making distinctions. He doesn't even listen to the boy's opinion. As a result, after passing the goal, all 6 loops reset. Looking at the 0 on the guideboard, the man becomes furious. He bangs the wall and rips apart the rule board in anger. After a year of rage, he apologizes to the boy for losing his temper. In truth, he rushed because his child was waiting for him outside. As if aware of his impatience, the passage offers a staircase to the exit. The man, furious with hope as if he had found salvation, pulls the boy. The boy firmly grasps the man's hand and tries to stop him from going up the stairs, but a hurried man won't listen to a child. He's strong and shakes the boy's hand off. The boy collapses, hitting his forehead on the floor and flipping over. The man doesn't stop and runs toward the white light on the stairs in excitement. After the man disappears, the boy returns to the original path as if nothing had happened. When he reaches the goal, the guideboard number changes to 1, meaning the stairs were misplaced. The boy continues moving forward gracefully and finds another man in the loop. He runs over to greet him, but the man has become a manipulated NPC. No matter how much the boy touches him, the man doesn't react. Then a terrible scream echoes through the passage. The boy hears it and says farewell to the man, then runs into the loop alone. As a result, he happens to meet Kazunari, who has just been reset to 0 by chance. The wheel of fate starts turning from there. The boy notices Kazunari is an ordinary person and decides to team up with him. This time, he doesn't speak but stares at the back of the Exit 8 guideboard. There's a 4-letter word on the back that changed to return. Kazunari urges the boy to follow him quickly, unaware of the boy's intent. The boy quietly follows. As expected, the guideboard for Exit 8 still reads 0. At that moment, Kazunari is calm and takes the boy back into the loop. He wonders what is wrong with the Mobius-like path, while the boy goes to the goal without hesitation. Kazunari worries about the boy and follows him. The result surprises him. The guideboard number increases to 1. Kazunari then pays close attention to the boy's ideas. When the boy stops again in the underground, Kazunari goes to him and looks him over. This decision proves successful and the two of them feel excited. However, when they enter the 3rd loop, the level of fear rises further. First, the lights flicker and then go out, plunging the entire passage into darkness. Kazunari quickly turns on his phone's flashlight. From the walls, the sound of barricades being kicked off echoes. When the light shines, fresh blood pours from a ventilation duct. The cries of babies and the squeaking sound of odd mice mix with the rumbling corridor. Kazunari is terrified, but in the dark he pulls the boy back to the goal. Fortunately, when they return, the abnormality disappears immediately. They proceed smoothly to the next loop. This time, a kitten appears in the middle of the passage. The kitten bolts the moment it sees the two. After that, a woman in white clothes appears. The boy gets excited and calls her mama. But Kazunari is convinced she's an abnormality because he was once deceived by a reunion with a relative-like figure earlier. Kazunari hugs the boy tightly and pulls him back. The guideboard now reads 4, proving Kazunari's judgment was correct. However, he understands the boy's excitement. The boy, curious about Kazunari, starts telling his story. At first, he deliberately ran away from his mother to make her worry, but after a long time he became disappointed and wanted to go back to her. Kazunari asks the boy, "Where is your father?" The boy says he's never met him. Kazunari can't hear anymore and only encourages the boy to do his best for his mother. The two step back into the loop. They see the number on the guideboard appear upside down as an 8. They retreat without hesitation. Now there are only 3 loops left to the real exit. The adults and the child finally breathe easier. Exit 8, the dentist, the train, the law office, the medical clinic, the part-time job at the workshop, the subway. Suddenly the staff doors open. Kazunari looks and the door is pitch black. But far down he sees a reflection of the subway. The video shows a version of Kazunari listening to music with earphones and wearing a blank expression like a doll. Kazunari finally understands. When he ignored the bullied mother earlier, he wasn't just cold-hearted, he'd become unfeeling and indifferent. As soon as he becomes a father, his feelings grow heavy. He doesn't know what to do after he gets out. The boy sees Kazunari's weak state and gives him his treasured shell. Kazunari accepts the shell, takes the boy, and enters the 7th loop. The two step in, and suddenly a warning alarm sounds in the passage. Immediately afterward, a violent flood bursts from the corner. Kazunari pulls the boy and runs, but they are swallowed by the current instantly. In the water filled with strange things, Kazunari's consciousness drifts into a blue sea. A woman in white stands on a beach before him and a child plays in the surf not far away. In fact, the woman in white is Nana and the child is the baby of Kazunari and Nana-to-be. The child picks something up from the beach and runs to Nana to show it. Nana says it's his gift. The next moment, the child hands the gift to Kazunari. Kazunari sees the shell in the child's hand and suddenly realizes that the boy on the path was the child not yet born to him and Nana. His love for the child surges and gives him strength. He sacrifices himself to the current but desperately pushes the boy upwards and places him on the guideboard at exit 8. How long it takes, he doesn't know. The flood pulls at the passage, leaving behind chaotic ruins and the boy alone. Kazunari is swept away by the current and his whereabouts become unknown. The boy turns back according to the rules of the game without searching for him. He successfully clears the 7th loop. Having overcome the trial, he will find the real 8th exit. The boy bravely steps into the loop alone and disappears around a corner. Soon, Kazunari appears too. This is his final trial. Kazunari doesn't rush, he simply checks whether any abnormalities are present in the passage. After confirming nothing is wrong, he breathes a sigh of relief and heads for the goal. As expected, the real exit 8 appears ahead. Looking at the stairs leading up, Kazunari's heart wavers. But he looks at the shell in his hand and remembers Nana's words in the sea. I don't know which way is right. You'll protect that child. That child will protect you someday. Kazunari, who had been lost for so long, finally makes up his mind. He steps onto the stairs as a stepfather to protect the boy. At that moment, the radio on his smartphone comes back on. The subway passengers who had been in their noisy, busy lives escape the loop and return to reality. At the same time, he no longer has doubts in his heart. Kazunari doesn't leave the exit of the subway in indifference. He calls Nana to ask where she is in the hospital and then takes a ticket and boards the subway to go to her side. His car is located near the door. The scene inside the car mirrors the beginning of the movie. A baby's crying and a woman's voice in distress overlap. At that time, Kazunari had chosen to ignore it. This time, he decides to take responsibility as a father and to intervene when others are in trouble. The story of the movie The Eighth Gate ends here.